You know exactly what it's like. You're sitting in a meeting, or maybe you just got a major promotion. Everyone is looking at you, expecting you to lead. Outwardly, you smile, you nod, you play the part perfectly. But internally, your heart is hammering. You feel a cold sweat prickling the back of your neck. You are scanning the room, waiting for the exact moment someone finally figures it out. Figures out that you don't belong here, that you're faking it. That any second now, the curtain is going to drop, and you will be completely, publicly exposed. Most people call that imposter syndrome. Your HR department, your favorite self-help gurus, and countless articles will tell you that it's a personal defect, a glitch in your confidence. They'll tell you to repeat positive affirmations and just believe in yourself more. But that is a lie. That is not what is actually happening to you. The dark, unsettling truth is that your brain isn't broken. It's working perfectly. What you call imposter syndrome is actually a highly evolved, primal defense mechanism. It is an evolutionary appeasement strategy. When you feel like a fraud, it isn't because you lack skill. It's because your hyperactive threat detection system is accurately reading a room that is actively trying to diminish you. You aren't crazy. You're the victim of systemic gaslighting. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how this psychological trap was designed to keep you compliant, and how to finally break out of it. Let's look at the science, because the history of this phrase has been entirely hijacked. The term was actually coined back in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. But here is the part that modern pop psychology conveniently erased. They didn't classify this as an innate mental illness. They observed it in highly competent, successful women who were operating in hostile, male-dominated environments. Your feelings of being a fraud are a biological reaction to an environment that covertly invalidates your success. Think about evolutionary psychology. Standing out, becoming the alpha or the tall poppy, makes you a target for exile or aggression from the pack. To survive, your primitive brain created a self-handicapping mechanism, preemptive submission. If you internally convince yourself you are unworthy, you project harmlessness. You appease the pack. Combine this with a psychological reality known as the inverse Dunning-Kruger effect. We all know incompetent people who wildly overestimate their abilities. But the inverse is equally true, and it is mathematically proven. Highly competent individuals consistently underestimate their relative ability. Because a complex task is easy for you, your cognitive bias tricks you into assuming it must be easy for everyone. You become completely blind to your own superiority. So, when people praise you, it triggers massive cognitive dissonance. It feels like manipulation. You think, I'm not special, they just haven't caught on yet. Which brings us to the first psychological trap. I call it the competence tax. Let's look at how this manifests in the real world, usually in your career. You step into a new role or a high-pressure corporate culture. The unspoken rules of this environment, often driven by narcissistic leaders who withhold praise to maintain control, covertly signal, you are lucky just to be here. Because of your high empathy and conscientiousness, you don't recognize the environment as toxic. You experience institutional betrayal. You internalize the hostility and conclude, the environment is correct. I am the error. Watch your own body language. You do the postural shrink. Even though you hold a position of authority, you pull your elbows in, cross your legs tightly, and physically take up less space at the boardroom table. When you speak, you use uptalk, ending factual declarative statements with a rising intonation, like a question. You throw in a self-deprecating laugh. You are subconsciously signaling to the room, I am not challenging your authority. You compulsively over-prepare. You write a 50-page brief for a casual 10-minute sync. You tell yourself this is just diligence. No, it isn't. It's a trauma response. You are terrified of being exposed. When someone congratulates you on a massive win, what do you say? Oh, I just got really lucky with the timing. Or, well, we managed to pull it off. Even though you did 95% of the work alone, the system weaponizes this against you. By labeling your anxiety as an internal syndrome, they successfully shift the blame for their toxic culture onto your shoulders. If you feel like a fraud, you won't ask for a raise. You'll work 80-hour weeks just to pay off an imaginary debt. The consequence? You become the ultimate fixer, burning yourself to the ground to earn a seat at a table you already own. But the workplace is just the warm-up. Trap 2 is much darker, and it happens where you are most vulnerable, in your romantic relationships. I call this the fraudulent lover dynamic. If you suffer from this, you likely grew up experiencing conditional love or childhood parentification. Affection in your house was tied strictly to your performance, your grades, or your behavior. You were taught early on that you are only as valuable as your last achievement. So what happens when you finally meet a genuinely loving, high-value partner? Your brain panics. A phenomenon called pluralistic ignorance takes over. You become convinced that you have somehow tricked this person into loving you. Every single day, you are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. This creates a terrifying self-imposed power dynamic. Because you feel inherently unqualified for their love, you resort to extreme people-pleasing. You hide your true needs. You swallow your anger. You might even accept subtle mistreatment because a dark part of your subconscious believes it's exactly what a fraud like you deserves. You exhaust yourself constantly trying to earn your place in the relationship, terrified that if they see the real, unpolished, exhausted you, they will pack their bags and leave. The tragedy isn't that they don't love you. The tragedy is that they do, and your trauma won't let you feel it. So, how do we dismantle this evolutionary glitch? You don't need generic affirmations. You need psychological armor. Here are 2 clinical defense mechanisms to take your power back today. Principle 1. The baseline audit. Whenever that cold panic of being found out hits, stop looking inward. Look outward. Audit the environment. Ask yourself, is this room designed to make me feel small? Narcissistic systems and toxic partners require you to feel insecure so they can extract more labor and compliance from you. Recognize the game. Label the environment as the problem, instead of labeling yourself as inadequate. Principle 2. The radical ownership protocol. Stop ending your sentences like questions. Stop shrinking your posture. Starting tomorrow, banish the phrase, "I got lucky," from your vocabulary. When someone compliments your work or your partner tells you they love you, you look them in the eye and say 2 words. Thank you. Let the silence hang. Endure the excruciating discomfort of simply owning your competence and your worth. You are not an imposter. You are just a highly perceptive person, navigating a world that thrives on your self-doubt. Which of these 2 traps do you fall into the most? The competence tax at work or the fraudulent lover dynamic in your relationships? Let me know in the comments right now.